Big news from Ankara as President Bola Tinubu has just concluded a massive state visit with President Recep. And of course, the numbers are staggering. The president has been in Turkey, and rather than talk about what the president went to Turkey to do, people were talking about how the president fell. When we keep dwelling on the fact that the president fell, which could have happened to any other person, you forget the fact that he actually went for something serious. So sometimes let's just, take our time and, dissect what the president went for. So the president has signed a serious agreement with the Turkish counterparts. So we are talking about a clear pathway to a $5 billion trade volume. Did you get that? 5 billion trade volume between Nigeria and, of course, Turkey. So, but this isn't just about big numbers. When you hear $5 billion, what comes to it is like, this money is big, but it's not about the money. It's about jobs, energy, and defense. So they're thinking of how they can create job. When we talk about defense, we've been having these security issues. So the president went there to actually discuss how they can come together and see what they can do in terms of jobs. Defense is one important thing he actually went there for. Don't forget what happened to in this Nigeria recently. So that is why they actually discussed energy and defense. So is this the partnership that finally stabilizes our economy and security? That is the big question you should be asking right now. Well, let's dive into the details. So I want us to, dissect and talk about this because the question everybody's asking is this what we've been expecting? Like, the economy and everything. We've been hoping that everything will get better. Well, the talking about economic energy. First, let's talk about the money. President Tinubu and President Erdoğan have agreed to set up a joint economy and trade committee. So they'll be having a joint trades committee that will look into this particular agreement that has been signed. So this is huge because it removes the red tape for Turkish investors wanting to bring capital into Nigeria. So right now, any barrier they were having, this will just cut off all the barriers. So Turkish investors cannot come into Nigeria and invest their money, and there will be a lot of jobs for Nigerians. That is one of the major issues we'll have, lack of jobs. So we're hoping this turns out well. So the energy sector, the president, talking about the Turkish president, specifically praised Nigeria's current energy reforms. We can expect to see more Turkish expertise helping with our power and oil infrastructure. So it means we'll see Turkish people, the experts in that field, they'll be taking care of our oil and, of course, power. We'll be having this epileptic power supply in Nigeria. So when they come in, it means the economy will be looking good because they will also take a look at the oil infrastructure and not just that by talking about power supply. So I think this is a very good one. So when you take your time and be talking about how the president fell and the president didn't fall, let's just also look at the brighter parts, what he went for. So wider sectors, from education to diaspora policy, 9 different agreements were signed to ensure that investment isn't just one-sided, but creates value right here at home. So this a part of what they signed is that the investment will not just be about staying in Turkey, but they can also bring it back home. So everybody will also benefit. So in the terms of security and the Sahel defense, they signed a particular agreement that has to do with the security and the Sahel Defense Corporation. So now let's look at the most critical parts talking about security. That is the major issue I think we have in our country talking about Nigeria. So we all know the challenges in the Sahel and, of course, fight against terrorism. The terrorism issue is not just a Nigerian thing. When you go to other parts, our neighboring countries are also facing the same, issue. So this particular agreement will also take a look at that part. So President Tinubu was very frank about this. Yeah. So Turkey is a global leader in military technology. Just in case you don't know, when you talk about military technology, when you're counting top 10, they must be among. So when you talk about Russia, United States, you can't rule out Turkey. So that is another part that I want you to look at it from. So like their famous drones and, of course, counterterrorism. So they're very good at it. So Nigeria is going to tap into Turkish expertise for military training for our troops. So they'll be coming to Nigeria to train our military so that our military will be top notch when it comes to security issues. So, and of course, we'll be doing what is known as intelligence sharing to stay ahead of, destabilizing forces. So intelligence is important. When you talk about security, if you don't have intelligence, you're just wasting your time. So we'll be sharing intelligence. And of course, there'll be what is called advanced defense equipment to strengthen our collective resolve. Advanced equipment. That is one thing I think the Nigerian military is lacking. So when we have more, equipment, we'll be able to fight terrorism that is eating deep into the fabric of the society. So this isn't just a friendly chat. It's a strategic alliance to secure our borders. Our borders have been so porous. So if this agreement comes into effect, it means our borders will be more protected. And I think it's a good idea. So the conclusion and call to action, President Tinubu end with a strong message. Nigeria, that is what President Tinubu actually said in Turkey. He said, Nigeria is open for serious partnership, no barriers, just growth. So they keep growing and growing. And I think it's a good development, if you ask me. So by signing nine new agreements across media, education, and trade, Nigeria is signaling to the world that we are ready to engage with confidence, not just engaging, we're engaging with confidence. So, but I want to hear from you. I would like to hear from you because now the agreement has been signed and this is what is trending right now, apart from the fact that the president fell, which could have happened to anybody, like I said before. But I want to hear from you. What do you think? Can this $5 billion with Turkey solve our local job crisis? Because that is so huge, $5 billion. If you do the mathematics or you convert it to Naira, you know what that means. So I want to find out, is this another high-level agreement that will take years to feel on the ground? Like, are we going to feel it? I mean, will it take years before we can feel the impact? Because there have been agreements upon agreements in the past that most people are saying we've not felt it. So the question right now is, what do you think? Can this $5 billion deal with Turkey solve our local job crisis? Or is this another high-level agreement that will take years to feel on the ground? I would like to hear from you. And please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more updates.